Tonight, you'll eat something cooked, maybe pasta, maybe rice, maybe just toast. You won't think twice about it, but that one small act, heating food before you eat it, might be the reason you're capable of thinking at all. Here's the strange part. No other animal on Earth does this. Not chimpanzees, not gorillas. Not a single one of your closest living relatives lights a fire and cooks a meal. Only you. Only your species. And scientists now believe that gap, the space between a raw diet and a cooked one, is where the human brain was built. That sounds like a stretch. A brain isn't a stove. But stay with this for a second. Your brain is expensive, brutally expensive. It makes up about 2% of your body weight, but it burns roughly 20% of your daily energy. Just sitting here, doing nothing, your brain is spending calories like a small factory that never shuts off. Somewhere in your evolutionary past, an ancestor of yours had to find a way to pay that bill. So where did the energy come from? For a long time, the answer scientists gave was meat. Early humans started hunting, started eating more animal protein, and that fueled bigger brains. It's a tidy story, but it has a problem. Raw meat is tough. Chewing it takes hours. Digesting it takes even more energy than the meat provides in return. A diet of raw meat and raw plants simply doesn't generate enough spare fuel to grow a brain like yours. That's the puzzle Harvard biological anthropologist Richard Wrangham set out to solve. And his answer wasn't meat, it was fire. Wrangham's cooking hypothesis, laid out in his research and later in his book Catching Fire, argues that heating food changes it at a chemical level. Cooking breaks down tough fibers. It unravels proteins. It turns starches, which your gut can barely use raw, into something your body absorbs almost effortlessly. A cooked potato and a raw potato might contain the same number of calories on paper, but your body can only actually extract a fraction of the calories from the raw one. Cooking is, in a sense, pre-digestion. It does part of your stomach's job before the food even reaches your mouth. Think about what that means. Every time an early human cooked a meal, they were handing their body a shortcut. Less chewing, less digesting. More energy left over. And that leftover energy had to go somewhere. This connects to something researchers call the expensive tissue hypothesis, developed by anthropologists Leslie Aiello and Peter Wheeler. Their idea is simple but elegant. The body can't just grow a bigger brain for free. Something else has to shrink to make room in the energy budget. Aiello and Wheeler pointed to the gut. A smaller, more efficient digestive tract costs less to run. And if you no longer need a massive gut to break down raw, fibrous food because cooking already did the work, that saved energy can be rerouted straight to the brain. So picture the trade. Ancestors with access to cooked food didn't need a chimpanzee-sized gut anymore. Their digestive tract could shrink. Their brain, freed from that constraint, could grow. It's not that cooking directly built neurons, it's that cooking rewired the entire energy economy of the body, and the brain was the winner. Here's where it gets even stranger. According to Wrangham's timeline, this shift lines up with the emergence of Homo erectus, roughly 1.8 million years ago. Homo erectus had a brain about 50% larger than the species before it, Homo habilis. That's not a small tweak. That's one of the biggest jumps in brain size in our entire evolutionary history. And it happened fast, in evolutionary terms, almost like something flipped a switch. Naturally, other scientists pushed back. If cooking was this important this early, where's the proof? Fire doesn't fossilize. Ash blows away. For decades, critics of Wrangham's hypothesis pointed out that solid archaeological evidence of controlled fire only reliably goes back around 1 million years, not 1.8 million. It's a fair challenge. You can't build a theory on ash that isn't there. But then, evidence started to surface. Archaeologist Francesco Berna and his team, examining South Africa's Wonderwork Cave, published findings in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, describing burned bone and ash deep inside the cave, in a location wind and water simply couldn't have carried them to naturally. It's some of the oldest strong evidence for the controlled use of fire ever found. It doesn't prove Wrangham's exact 1.8 million year timeline, but it closes some of the gap between the fossils and the theory. Now here's the twist. If cooking really did build the human brain, it didn't just change your biology. It changed your entire daily schedule. Chimpanzees spend nearly half of each day chewing. Half. Their entire waking life is dominated by the mechanical work of breaking down raw food. Cooking collapses that. Meals that would take a chimp hours take you minutes, and all those freed hours had to be spent on something. Wrangham's theory suggests those hours went into new kinds of behavior entirely. More time to make tools, more time to socialize, more time to plan, cooperate, and think ahead, because you weren't spending your whole day just trying to get enough calories to survive. Cooking didn't just fuel the brain. It may have handed that brain the free time it needed to actually use its new size. There's an odd psychological layer to this too. You are, biologically, primed to crave cooked food. Studies on great apes have found something unexpected. When chimpanzees, bonobos, and orangutans are offered a choice between raw and cooked versions of the same food, sweet potato, carrot, even meat, they consistently choose the cooked version. Even animals that have never once eaten cooked food in their lives prefer it. That preference didn't come from culture. It's older than culture. It suggests your attraction to cooked food isn't a habit you picked up. It's wired in, a leftover instinct from the moment your ancestors first discovered that heat made food better. So think about that the next time you smell something roasting and your mouth starts watering before you've even seen the plate. That's not a modern reflex. That's over 1 million years old. There's also a quieter consequence buried in all of this. Cooking requires fire. Fire requires a safe place to sit and tend it, usually at night, usually in a group. Some researchers argue that the campfire itself may have reshaped early human social life. Sitting around a shared flame, eating a shared meal, at a fixed time, in a fixed place, is a fundamentally different kind of gathering than foraging alone through the day. It's structured. It's social. Some anthropologists suggest this nightly ritual, meal, fire, group, conversation, might be one of the earliest scaffolds of human culture itself. Which brings us to something worth sitting with. You still do this. Right now, in your own life, most of your closest relationships probably run through food. Family dinners, first dates over a meal, holidays built entirely around a table. You didn't invent that instinct. You inherited it from ancestors who discovered somewhere around a fire nearly 2 million years ago that eating together made survival easier and made connection possible. Of course, the cooking hypothesis isn't proven beyond doubt. Some researchers still argue meat eating, not cooking specifically, deserves more credit for early brain growth. Others think the timeline is too early, and that systematic cooking came later than Wrangham proposes. Science is still working through the exact sequence. But the core idea that a shift in diet quality, however it happened, freed up the energy that built your modern brain is now taken seriously across the field. Something changed the equation. Something gave an ancient primate a spare energy surplus it had never had before. And whatever that something was, you are its result. So tonight, when you eat something cooked, pasta, rice, even just toast, you won't think twice about it. But somewhere in the deep architecture of your brain, in the wiring that lets you read these words, plan your week, love the people around you, there's a debt to a meal your ancestors ate almost 2 million years ago. A meal that, quite literally, rewired the human brain.